Jiang Zhe stared at the resignation letter on his desk, his fingers pausing for a second, total shock washing over him. As Feng Tingshen's right-hand secretary, he was one of the few people who knew about Rong Zhe and Feng Tingshen's marriage. He knew all too well how much Rong Zhe had endured over the years, how humble she'd been just to get close to Feng Tingshen. She'd insisted on joining Feng Corporation, even when he flat out refused to let her be his personal secretary, even when the old man begged on her behalf. It didn't change a thing. In the end, she had to settle for a regular secretarial job in the secretarial department. He thought Rong Zhe would be just like everyone else, obsessed with Feng Tingshen, causing chaos in the secretarial department. But she didn't. To get even a single extra glance from Feng Tingshen, she gave it her all. She was hardworking and brilliant at her job. Even when she was pregnant and had the baby, she never asked for special treatment. She worked her way up to head of the secretarial department all on her own. Jiang Zhe had watched her careful, quiet love for Feng Tingshen, and he'd never once thought she'd be the one to hand in a resignation letter. Then he immediately figured Feng Tingshen had forced her to quit, and honestly, who could blame him? That man's indifference toward Rong Zhe was obvious to everyone in the company. He barely came home after they got married. When he saw her at work, he treated her like a complete stranger. Even when she stood out at her job and they talked about promoting her, he'd only snapped, repeating irritably that no one was allowed to interfere with Rong Zhe's business, just to follow the rules. There wasn't a single flicker of emotion in his eyes. Then when Jiang Zhe reported work to Feng Tingshen, he ultimately didn't dare mention Rong Zhe's resignation. He figured it was nothing more than a blip on Feng Tingshen's radar. But what he didn't know was that the defeated Rong Zhe he'd imagined shot her make secretary persona the second she turned around. She dialed a number she hadn't used in years, her voice firm as she asked for a ticket to the super exclusive tech expo, the same field where she'd once been a partner, fighting alongside her team, the same world she'd walked away from for Feng Tingshen. Then after resigning, Rong Zhe was eerily calm. She no longer called her daughter Feng Jingxing twice a day like she used to, no longer held onto her relationship with Feng Tingshen and their daughter all by herself. It was like she'd cut all her ties completely. No one knew the resolve hidden behind her newfound detachment. No one knew that quitting her job at Feng Corporation wasn't surrender. It was her chance to find herself again, to make up for everything she'd lost because of her marriage. And meanwhile, far away in country A, Feng Jingxing was still drowning in sorrow over Aunt Lin's upcoming return to China. She cried as she called Feng Tingshen to complain, only to get a surprise: they'd be moving back to China next week. She had no idea if her dad's sudden decision was really because of her tears, or because of the woman he'd completely ignored, the woman who'd already walked away. Feng Tingshen always looked cold and distant, but he never told anyone the truth. He hadn't refused to let Rong Zhe be his personal secretary because he hated her. He'd been too scared. He never showed that every time he caught a glimpse of her at work. His eyes held complicated emotions he couldn't hide. He knew Rong Zhe had resigned. He just let his pride get in the way. Indifference was the only mask he knew how to wear. The Rong Zhe's journey back to herself was bound to be rough. When Feng Tingshen finally woke up, would it be too late to win her back? Their daughter Feng Jingxing, the one they'd kept in the background, would she be the key to fixing their relationship, or just another rift? When Rong Zhe stood in front of Feng Tingshen as her true self, this love that started with humility and ended with resolve would finally uncover all its hidden secrets. It's a painful, tangled mess. No one can escape it.